Okay, because of popular demand, today I'm going to make a snowtrooper helmet from Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. For this build, you'll need these prop making tools, these materials, complete list in the video description, sanding equipment, and safety equipment. First I made a dome template and trace it onto white EVA foam. This template is unique to my skull. You can get one that better fits you by pulling it from a bike helmet that fits. I've outlined that technique in like 1,000 videos, well, like 7 videos. It's just these have been carefully manipulated over the course of a couple of years, so they're not much help to anyone but me at this point. After tracing the templates, I cut them out using a sharpened box cutter. You may recognize this footage from my how to make a Star Wars clone trooper helmet build video, because it's footage from my how to make a Star Wars clone trooper helmet build video. And if that's the sort of cost-cutting, cheap shot reuse thing that bothers you, then you can help me avoid cost-cutting measures like that by supporting me on Patreon. It's seriously the only thing that allows me to make these videos, because ad revenue is a joke, guys. That's not even remotely enough money to earn a living from. So huge thanks to everyone who's been scrolling by the screen for the past couple of minutes. You guys make this possible. I heat formed the pieces and stuck them in circular braces, aka tape rolls, so that they would retain their shape while they cooled. I stuck the parts together using contact cement. Read the label carefully before using. Contact cement's toxic and it's an enormous pain if you're new at it, although it is a superior product to, say, hot glue, which I do use all the time and will continue to use.
Okay, so I have no idea how that happened, but since we're not making a museum quality prop here, I can just correct that. Oh, you know, my best guess would be I probably went outside the lines a little bit.
Once the dome parts are assembled and the glue has had a day to dry, I reheated it with my heat gun to get out all those lumps. Next, I cut the visor, brim. You know, I make enough helmet videos that I should just read a book about hat making or something just so that I can get the terminology right, you know? Like, I can build things good, I can't words make. Some of you already know that.
Look at that clean cut! Look at how clean that cut is! Look at it!
I have to cut this for the front, and I'm going to use it as a stencil for the opposite side. I'm using pencil because this foam is kind of like a sponge when it comes to ink or paint. So here's just a full shot so that you can pause it, zoom in, get the dimensions, and if you live in most of the world, convert that into metric. I heat formed that and stuck it in my atomic waste basket to cool.
You never want to aim the heat gun down because it will warp your cutting mat. And cutting mats are expensive, and I just aimed the gun down slightly. Oh my god, I have to sand that edge still, and it would have been 1,000 times easier to do it before I did this. But oh well.
Then I had to go back and fix one of the cement seams. That's not right. Then I had to go back and fix the center seam, which had delaminated during this process. By that I just mean that I re-glued it and put something heavy on top of it to keep the sides pressed together so that they wouldn't open up while the glue set. I realized that the flat surface of the brim was not going to allow it to bow outward enough, so I cut a curve in the top edge.
Hey, there's my phone again. It's only when I'm using contact cement.
When cemented with the dome, this curve allowed the brim to flare outward ever so slightly. Some of these seams are really not fantastic. It's not my best work. You know, there's a budget for 3 hours of work, so what you're watching is 3 hours of work. But the ones on the dome will be covered with quick fill, and the one connecting the brim to the dome will be covered with a band later. That band exists on most of the Stormtrooper helmet variants, but it's usually black, which is why you may not notice it on this version. This time, I cut a strip of white foam. I also used my last Stormtrooper helmet visor template as a rough map to figure out the eye placement of this helmet. You know, I got a bunch of angry comments about that, like, we need to buy a whole Stormtrooper helmet just to figure out how to build a Stormtrooper helmet. I'm like, no, you just literally, all I took from that was the visor. So all you need is a dome, and then you can just eyeball the rest. I attached the goggles loosely.
To answer your questions real quickly, I do not have a budget for a life cast of my head, so this is one of those cheap store mannequins with a bunch of scrap EVA glued to it, and it's like a close approximation of my head. It's also the creepiest thing I've ever made in my life. So I was doing test fitting, and I noticed something interesting. The eyes are too far apart. This is like, it's like a helmet for Uma Thurman. I'm sorry, Uma. That was mean. So I remade those goggles with the eyes a little closer together, and then I contact cemented them into the helmet. Now let's say the ends of those goggles are 2 inches tall, wide, whatever. I only contact cemented 1 inch from the top because I need to fit the cloth face shield underneath it, and I won't be able to do that if it's already glued.
And then wrap the band around that seam, thus negating the need for any sort of quick fill or caulk or any old filler material.
Okay, now full disclosure, these seams still aren't great. These could use a few more layers of quick seal and sanding, but I don't have the time or the budget for that, so you guys get the idea. Using sanding sponges on this because it's a bit less aggressive. It's a bit less destructive than the belt sander.
Next, I cut up a white t-shirt from my lost phase that I was clearly in back in high school. I hot glued that to the mask and the interior of the helmet. Next, I made this secondary goggle frame out of scrap EVA sheets. After that, I smoothed out the eye sockets using a rotary tool and quick fill.
So I sprayed this with white Plastidip. This would have been a little easier to do before I attached the cloth face shield, but you know, when you rush through a build like this, you lose track of things. So yeah, if you guys are doing this, spray it with white Plastidip before. But I mean, I'm telling you right now so you guys can avoid that mistake. Make sure you're wearing your respirator when you do this because this stuff is terrible. It takes about half hour before you can do another coat, and I think 4 coats is best. But really, all I'm trying to do here is cover up the stains where some of the contact cement is visible. I'm not actually trying to waterproof it or anything. See, typically this is a prerequisite to the painting process because you can't paint onto EVA foam directly. As I explained earlier, it's a sponge. It'll soak up whatever paint you put on it. So this way it soaks up the first layer of Plastidip, and then the next layer is built on top of that. When it was dry, I put in the lenses using, is that gaff tape or paper tape? I could just look at the actual helmet. Oh, but it's like 100 feet away. I don't want to get up. Oh, so lazy. I have a little offcut from the band, so I'm going to demonstrate how contact cement works. Yeah.
When that was done, I attached the lenses, which were actually just cut from a plastic envelope, and get those at Staples. Because I wasn't crazy about the way the face cloth was lying, I added a sheet of cardstock just beneath it to help fill it out a bit. And that's how you make a snowtrooper helmet. Now you can go attack rebel bases and get eaten by snow monsters. Oh wow, there's no outro. Okay, so hey, I'm Jake. I make movie props. I just make props in general for a living. Occasionally, when there's a budget, I make YouTube videos, the build process. If you want to support me, you can head on over to Patreon. If you can't support me, but need to fill time until the next time I'm able to make another video, there's 10 years of content, and I think if you watch 10 videos a day, you still wouldn't get through all of it by the time I upload the next video, so yeah, have at it. Thanks for watching. See you later.